back with the Organic Section podcast. Today my guest is the great, the one and only, the incomparable Tim Bachmann.
Howdy.
It's good to have you here, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell them a story, Tim. I met you in the year 2020 in Canyon City, and I bought my first piece of purchased art directly from you. You've got a style that's spectacular. You don't see it often. And I kept in contact with you for a few years, and ended up moving to the Springs here, right in your area, and oddly enough displayed your artwork in my workstations as a barber. And you are a star out here, sir. It's my honor and pleasure to have you up here, spending your time hanging out with me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's always a compliment that I'm the first artist you bought a piece from in general because you enjoy it so much. But yeah, I was down in a co-op gallery in Old Colorado City for about a year and a half or so, and it was kind of an interesting business model they had there, where they have a number of the artists that are a part of the gallery that will work a couple of shifts a month to kind of just be like the clerk that checks people out and whatnot. And that way, they take less of a percentage of commission, and it just kind of works out for the gallery owners and the artists alike that work in that gallery. But my style is essentially surrealism. So most people are probably familiar with Salvador Dali. He is the old Spanish artist that had the wild mustache and did like the melting clocks and things like that. So as a kid, I was always fascinated with landscapes and kind of that surrealistic dreamscape kind of style of art. And it's funny, I drew a lot as a kid for a long time, and then probably all of my teenage years I didn't draw at all. I didn't really do anything artistically, and I didn't even pick up a paintbrush and even start painting until I was about 22. And it's been a process throughout the years. You get better and better. When I first started, I would have an image in my brain that I wanted to paint, and it would take a whole different direction, and it would end up being something wild and weird. And as long as you were happy with the end result was the most important part. But only probably in the last 4 to 5 years, I've actually gotten to that level where I can pull an image out of my brain, and it'll be like what I was imagining as I was going along through and painting it. And that just comes with years of practice and techniques, and just really embellishing your style.
How you know when one's done?
That's a great question. That's that's something that I was struggling with earlier on, because it's important to be oftentimes more minimal within your artwork, because you don't want to convolute a piece too much, where you just keep going and going, and next thing you know, you're like, there's way too much going on in this, So kind of the minimal aesthetic is what I strive for. But overall, I'll have a pretty good idea of what I want to do. I'll have kind of an image in my brain that'll come to me either through a dream or when I can't sleep, and I'm just like, my brain's just going a million miles an hour, and I have just things and visualizations and things just kind of floating through my head, and I'm like, I got to do that. And oftentimes, if I can't sleep, I'll try to do a concept drawing real quickly to kind of just hash that idea out before I forget about it, because it's kind of like with comedians and their process, when they get like a bit going, they got to write it down, because otherwise you will forget it. So I'll try to jot it down and kind of conceptualize just a quick little sketch, and then that way I can go back and paint it.
They're fleeting, aren't they? They're good ideas.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They often are. And I learned that the hard way when I know that I'd have such a great idea, and then like a week later I'll be like, oh, what was that idea that I had? And I just completely forgot. So I started jotting them down and sketching them out, because that's been beneficial and important.
What made you decide because art's a hard sell, to the family, to your parents, to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do for a living.
Yeah.
When did you decide that was going to be the route you wanted to take?
It's kind of been a slow build. I wasn't necessarily planning on being an artist until probably about 4 years ago. through my mid-20s, as I was starting to paint and getting a lot better and better, I had a lot of friends, that were supportive, and they're like, "You need to sell this. You need to sell this." And one night I was laying in bed, and I was thinking, I was like, "Yeah, maybe I should apply to this Taste of Colorado," which is a pretty large, ongoing, like 30, 40-year anniversary festival that they have in Denver. And it's not necessarily an art festival. It's just a festival that just has a ton of people. And I applied to it with only 2 weeks remaining, and they accepted me. And I didn't know what I was doing at all. And so I rented a tent and tried to get prints made. And again, didn't have a clue on what I was doing. I ended up going to like FedEx Kinko's to get my prints made. And in hindsight, like that was the absolute worst place I could have ever gone, because the quality was absolute trash. They were ripping me off. But I ended up going out that weekend for a 4-day show and had a great time. I had some friends come down with me, hung out in the tent, and just drinking some beers and hanging out on a nice, beautiful weekend and selling art. And I didn't make a ton of money, but back then, that first year that I did it, it was enough money to be like, kind of get bit by that entrepreneurial bug. And I was like, this is fucking awesome. I'm going to definitely keep doing this. So yeah. I did it the next year and made twice the money I made. And I was pretty much hooked after that. I was like, I'm going to do this. But I was in school at that time studying industrial design, which is essentially product design. So it's anything from cell phones to computers, refrigerators, appliances, vehicles, sunglasses, these headphones we're wearing now. And I wanted to get a degree that was going to be, that wasn't going to be worthless. So I didn't want to get like an art degree. And the whole time in school, my game plan was to be some sort of industrial designer when I got out. And upon 5 years into school, realizing like, damn, this is going to take me a while. Like, it's going to take me damn near 7 years to finally get this done. So I'm like 32 by the time I finally graduated, and I wanted to get out of Denver because it was so expensive, and I was trying to move to Austin, or I was interested in even Nashville, really anywhere just to kind of get out. You just want to kind of get out of the place that you grew up. And I moved down to the Springs, which was cool. It's only an hour from Denver, and I'm happy we ended up doing that. My wife and I bought a house down here, and I just got to talking to her, because I knew that she was pretty serious about, like, okay, yeah, get a big boy job now. I've been waiting tables for years and years, and so upon kind of realizing and doing the research, like, man, I'm not gonna really make much money. It's gonna be like $38K, starting, and I'm like, that's well, I can make more money selling art. And so I was like, I'm gonna just start doing all these festivals. Because, along the way, I had only done 2 shows, like Taste Colorado that first year and that second year. And once I had graduated and I had the time, I'm like, I'm just going to go full all in, just show after show after show. Because I met a lot of artists along the way that do this for a living and make a pretty good living doing it. So, yeah, that like I said, I got bit by that entrepreneurial bug, and right when I was ready to jump in, locked and loaded, COVID happened. So it shut everything down for 2 years. There was no festivals, no live events. And I was like, damn it, back to waiting tables for another couple of years, because it allows me to work more or less part-time, but also still focus on my art. Like during the day, I can be out in my garage doing woodworking. I do a little bit of furniture design and stuff, and also some painting. So that allowed me to get a lot. And during COVID lockdown, I got a lot of paintings done, including this one here. It's Medicine Tree that you got. And
my favorite piece, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites too. That one for the listeners is, although you can't see it, maybe we'll send a link. But it's essentially like a giant octopus kind of floating through the desert, and it kind of has a play on the gun violence in America and how it's it's just an ongoing horrible problem that's just difficult to solve. But yeah, it's in its own kind of abstract and surrealistic kind of way.
It's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely like it captures your eye. I remember when I was thinking and conceptualizing the painting, I was like, I'm gonna do a giant octopus, just kind of, because I know it's gonna be, if I keep it minimal, like in the desert, it's going to be really, really eye-catching. And so when I'm at shows, yeah, that's one of the first paintings that people walk up to. They're like, "What is going on here?" It's definitely one of my biggest sellers. So
That hung in my barber shop since I bought it from you in 2020.
nice.
And I have to tell you, if there was a percentage, it would have to be very close to 95, almost to 100% of people that walk by that painting go, "Hey man, what is that? Where'd you get that?"
Yeah, it's intriguing.
It's
It
very,
really
it's
is.
very eye-catching.
It really is. Yeah, I love that one. It's definitely my top 5 favorite paintings that I've done.
So the bug that you talk about, that bug, unless it's bit you, you wouldn't understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it exactly for you?
Well, there's a lot of things. I think knowing that you can kind of just generate money with your talent, your God-given talent, is really, really cool. It's gratifying. It's humbling. It's just knowing that you have that possibility. And my first year out there and selling art, had I would done really horrifically, that would have steered me in a different course. But in hindsight, like the money that I made that year was only like $1,600 or whatever. But that was a lot of money to me at that time, like just by selling my art for the first time ever.
From your dreams.
Yeah, from my dreams. So
Yeah.
so I was like, that's so cool that I can do that. And then the next year, I made like a little over $3,000, and I was like, hell yeah, this is so cool. So then talking to other artists along the way that you meet doing this, you find out that it's like a trade. There's so much to learn, so much that you got to reinvest. At least the first couple years in, you're reinvesting at least half the money you make to get a better setup, to look more professional. And let's see. Yeah, I met a guy named Robert Walker. He was really pivotal in my pursuit in this journey, and he's an artist from Ohio, and he's been doing it since he's probably 25 or so, and he was on a whole other level. So he was just really inspirational to me and gave me a lot of like insight and little hidden jewels and nuggets of information. It's really critical because to know where to get your prints made, canvas prints, regular prints, is really, really crucial down to your bottom line of like profit margins. Because if you're going to FedEx Kinko's or some of these other places that are like on the internet, your profit margins aren't gonna really be there to like sustain you. You know what I mean? Yeah. And again, realizing that my degree was only going to get me so far. It was like, why go out and use my degree and probably get a job that I don't really even like, some 9-to-5 BS where I'm just like traveling and commuting to work and traffic and working behind a computer all day, and time's just dragging ass. And I'm like, I don't want to do that when I have the opportunity to probably make more money doing this. It's going to be harder to get started, but it's going to be certainly more gratifying in the long run. And it has been. It really has been. It's like I said, that COVID kind of knocked me back a couple of years, but it allowed me to get some more pieces out there, and creating other little revenue streams like through galleries and breweries, coffee shops, things like that.
As an adult man with dreams that's paid from his pursuits, would you say that that's probably one of the most gratifying feelings in the world?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm so thankful that I do have that, that God-given talent and ability. And also growing up the way that I did, and, kind of growing up pretty poor, kind of gave me that grit and that stamina, motivation, and work ethic, to just, because this oftentimes, like, now that I'm like really fully into this is damn near my full-time job at this point. There are some amazing aspects to the job, but there's also some hard parts too, where it's, you're on a time crunch where you gotta be in a festival in Arizona, and you gotta drive out 12 hours to get to a festival that you get there and you realize, oh shit, this festival isn't really my ideal clientele, because everyone here is retirement age. So like all it is 80-year-olds walking around, and that's not my clientele. So you're just hoping to make enough money for gas money to get back home. Like sleeping in your van, showering at Planet Fitness. but it makes for a better story, and it's also kind of fun. It makes an adventure out of it. You get to see cities you never would. But when I do go out of state, I try to double up on shows, if not do 2 to 3 of them. So I'll drive down to Tucson and do one show one weekend, drive up to Phoenix and do another show that weekend. Then I'll head back. So I won't do just one show, drive all the way down there, for one show. Same thing with Texas, Wyoming, Oklahoma. So I'm all over within the region, within like a 12-hour drive. But I've gone out to Michigan for Electric Forest last year, which was a lot of fun. That was really cool because it was like you're making money and having fun. I was just drinking beers, eating mushrooms and selling art.
Living your passions.
Yeah, and that was a lot of fun. But again, it can be challenging because some shows will, the booth fee alone is $2,000, including that one. So you add up all your overhead, it's about $1,000 in gas. I drive a diesel van, and $2,000 booth fee, another $1,000 in inventory. So you're $4K in the hole when you get out there. So if you're not making, what you want to make, it can kind of set you back too. So oftentimes, especially getting started, my credit card's maxed out, and sometimes those shows don't go the way you want. You're up to God's whim with the weather. It's high stakes gambling. You're putting $3,000 into a slot machine. You're hoping to get 7, 8, or 9 back. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't happen. Sometimes you get a rained out show. I was in Denver. Colorado's been weird these last few weeks, last couple months actually. It's just been raining nonstop. And so my last couple shows got completely rained out. And that's going to happen, you know what I mean? So
it comes with the business.
It does, yeah, it does. But again, it's very gratifying, and it's a lot of fun because you get to scratch that itch of wanting to travel, that kind of nomadic lifestyle too,
It's up to you.
Yeah.
You're free that way.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm my own boss, which also is challenging too, because you gotta, I'm not a morning guy, and sometimes I gotta like kick myself in the ass in the mornings, like get out of bed, get your coffee, get into the garage and start working,
got things to do.
Be like hanging out until 2, 3 p.m. Like, what are you doing? You gotta get out there. And so yeah, sometimes it's that structural element I kind of struggle with, but
time management in our world is tricky, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it certainly is, because sometimes you want to get a painting finished, and you're like, I gotta get this painting finished for this next show, and then next thing you know, you're up till 3 a.m. painting. Like, damn, this painting is actually kind of being a little fussy and giving me a lot of problems because I've got to go over this octopus like 4 more times to make it just look just right. You get better throughout the years too with your technical skills and stuff, but overall, yeah, on average, I'd say a painting takes around 40 hours.
Wow. And
so my traditional medium is oil on canvas, and I learned mostly from Bob Ross tutorial videos, to be honest.
Really?
That's really where I kind of learned the technical skill more than I ever learned anywhere, like any of my college classes and my painting classes. I didn't really learn anything in those classes. It was like it just kind of gave me the time to paint, which is probably one of the most important things. I really do think the talent is being creative, is like having those thoughts come to me, and those crazy vivid images that I'm like, oh, I want to put that on. That's, I think, the talent. How good it looks is how many hours you put into it.
The technical skill, the craft of it.
Exactly. So that's like we've all heard that 10,000 hour rule.
That's true.
I probably don't have that many hours into painting, but I'm probably well over 5,000 hours. So yeah, I think by age 40, I'll probably really, really be on that level where I want to be at. But you always got to push yourself,
It's continuous.
It is, yeah.
How you mentioned coming up with less in your childhood. How much of that do you think contributes to a will and drive for you to pull it together to be able to believe in yourself enough to do what it is that you do?
Yeah, the confidence aspect is definitely critical too. I mean, just in general, to get yourself out there, to have the confidence to go to a show and be like, I'm going to try to sell my art. Like, there's a lot of confidence there too. But I'm always pushing artists that I meet along the way, like old co-workers of mine and artists that I meet along the way, people that come to my booth and talk to me about it. I'm like, don't be scared, just get out there and try it and do it. It's there's nothing to be scared about. Like you're not gonna, people aren't gonna just, yeah. So I think also too, I can't discredit college. That really was a learning experience for me, and I really think it honed in a lot of my skill set. Even though I was studying industrial design, we did a lot of graphic design, a lot of computer programs, and I think that was one of the things they harped a lot on was like minimalism, and like minimal is key.
Subtleties.
And I struggled with that, especially with the graphic element and doing like graphic design stuff, because we ended up doing a ton of graphic design work, and I really do think that was pretty beneficial for me in my painting, because I look at my paintings from 2015 and earlier to like the ones after that, after doing a lot of like really honing my skills in school, they definitely got a lot better, like objectively, but much better in that like minimalistic kind of feel.
I almost feel like in almost all creative facets, the lesson of subtlety and minimalism is super important. For it doesn't matter if you're building decks or if you're painting houses or cutting hair, making art. Once you figure that out, that wait a minute, not too extravagant. The beauty is in the subtlety.
It really is, and as dumb as it sounds, it's actually really challenging to get that fine balance. It really that's something I really struggled with.
One line too many.
Yeah. And sometimes my wife will help me out. Like she'll come up and see a painting that I'm working on, and I'll tell her like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to put this in there, and I want to put this in there. She's like, don't do that. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. That's too much. I don't need to do that. Plus, it's going to be another 9 hours that I don't need to add to this painting.
You talked about how they come to you. Have you noticed that almost goes in line with your mental health?
Yeah.
When you're feeling better,
absolutely,
it becomes better. And if you've got too many other things going on, there ain't nothing happening up there that way.
Absolutely. And there's times where if I'm just not feeling too right, or if I just had too much damn coffee, where it's just like I'll sit down and try to get into the zone, and it's hard to get in the zone, and sometimes you got to recognize that you're not going to get into that zone, so just put the sticks away for a minute or for a day, and then come back to it later. Because there's definitely been times where like I've messed up a painting because I just wasn't in the zone, and it was hard to. I was like trying to push myself and force myself into the zone, and it was like, and when you're in that zone, it can be really beneficial for your mental health in regards to like it being just a meditative state, because you just, you're quietly just kind of really going into the zone. You're listening to some music, and it's very meditative.
Do you feel like when you get in that zone, do you feel like the world is yours?
Yeah, absolutely. Because nothing else matters, and that's the only thing that you're like hyper focused on. You know what I mean? Yeah. So you're just going after it, and that's the best too, when you're just like, yeah, I want to do this, I'm going to do that, and it's really starting to come along, because oftentimes you don't have a painting fully conceptualized. The ideas come to you as you're painting it. You're like, oh no, I'm going to do an old time pinball machine, or I'm going to do an old timey little music player, and that'll really, really wrap this up nicely.
So do you still do product design? Because a lot of your paintings, you can tell that you've studied architecture and...
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And I really fell in love with furniture. So the best way I ever heard industrial design explained was it's in between art and engineering. It's like a spectrum in between art and engineering. And I knew, like going into it, that I'm way more on the artistic spectrum than the engineering spectrum. So there was a lot of students and a lot of classmates of mine that were really, really good with like the 3D aided or 3D modeling and stuff like that.
Maya.
These programs and like SolidWorks and CAD and Fusion 360 and all these different programs that I struggled with. I eventually, after putting 40, 50 hours into them, you do get better at them. But it was another reason why I was drawn to furniture. because once we would work in metals labs, plastics labs, and the woodworking lab is really where I kind of fell in love with woodworking, because to me, furniture design is more like functional sculpture. You know what I mean? It's like sculpture that's also functional. So I want to make something that's really, really cool, like with mid-century elements and kind of that Scandinavian minimalism, and also functional. So it'll be like a really, really cool light, or a really, really cool floor lamp, or a really cool coffee table, but functional. Something that's not just like a sculpture. Although I'm not opposed to doing some sculpture in the future. We'll kind of see. I will say too, in general, that that entrepreneurial pursuit is separate. I try to combine the two in a way, but it is separate, and it's a lot more challenging on that end, because you're not dealing with two-dimensional flat packable objects. You know, I can put a bunch of paintings and canvas prints and flat pack them in my van, whereas when I'm taking furniture, you know, they're much more
Delicate.
Yeah, and they get scratched up, they get dinged up, and again, just like all the tools you need. I just got my garage right now just kind of filled up with most of the things that I need, but there's always some tool you need. You know, oh, I need this tool, I need that tool, and so like getting that off the ground is a lot more pricey. We'll say that.
It's just so I can clarify for the people listening that aren't aware of him or would like a little bit more. When he says furniture, Mr. Bachmann creates these amazing tables with immaculately chosen pieces of wood on them. How do you pick your woods?
Well, I learned in some of my classes doing like the woodworking stuff that there's a few stores around Colorado that have imported African woods, and so and the element of wood in general is just beautiful. It's unlike any other element. It's not like metal is pretty cool in its own right, but plastic, you know, like that's, who cares about plastic? You know what I mean? When it comes to wood is just beautiful. It's elegant. It was once alive at one point. So each piece of wood is unique to the next piece because it has that beautiful wood grain. And depending on what type of wood species you're using, from, you know, cocoa bolo or zebra wood, a lot of these woods are imported from Africa, and they're beautiful. Like Purple Heart is a really hard wood that's purple. Then there's Wenge wood or Wenge wood, which is beautiful. Zebra wood's fantastic. And then recently I used a little bit of, what is that one? It's Paduke, which is like an orange wood. And you don't need to put stains on these woods, you know. You just let them shine. You just put like a nice finish on them to let them sing, but you don't stain them with any type of dark wood stain, because you just let the wood grain kind of shine and sing.
It's the art.
Yeah, that's the art. Yeah. And like I said, like that wood grain and those wood patterns and some of those fine woods, they're just beautiful, elegant, beautiful.
So when you talk about the festivals, you're 100% hands-on with that whole entire project. When you guys set up a booth for that, that's that's again one of the parts of the job that's not so much fun. Although lately, I've been trying to just kind of accept it, because the setup and the breakdown, it can be kind of brutal, and sometimes it sucks, you know. And like the first year you're doing it, you're like, oh, this is the worst part of the job, you know, driving out here for 12 hours, and then sometimes you got to wake up at like 4 a.m. and get to the site and start setting up. So you set up your tent and your weights and your walls, you hang everything. But after you've done it 40, 50 times, you kind of get used to it. You accept it. You're like, this is part of the job. You know what I mean? And it's a heck, yeah. And that's really the worst part of the job. Then you're just kind of sitting in the booth, and sometimes you're exposed to the elements in Texas, and it's hot and it's humid, and it's like, damn. But for the most part, it's just an overall awesome experience. You know, you're like sitting in the middle of Austin off of 6th Street, and there's always comedy clubs around you. So like as soon as you get off for the day, you zip up your tent, you're like, all right, I'm going to go grab a beer and a burger here, and then I'm going to go check out this comedy club over here, and then go to this little pub over here and hang out and get to see a city that you never would have seen. So it's like, you know, you're there on business and pleasure. Which part of that do you like more, the creative process or the business process of art?
Well, that's hard. I mean, the business aspect of it is is obviously rewarding, and it's pretty cool because you're like, wow, I'm making a lot of money. Like, this is really cool, and it's really gratifying, and like, and obviously that's a resource that we all need as humans. You know, like you need to not to be like money hungry and money driven. You know, but like it's helpful to make some money to pursue your dream. You know, because without that, then you can't really do it. But I'd say overall, like I guess there's elements that I love in every aspect of it, and they all also get old too. So yeah, I'd love, if I haven't traveled in 6 months, I'd love to get out and be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go to Tucson this weekend, and I'm super stoked for it. And then after 2 weeks on the road, you're tired, you're ready to come back home. Whereas like when you're painting for 4 or 5 hours at a time, you're like, all right, I'm tired, this is getting tedious. And so then I go to the garage, do some woodworking for a bit, and then after sanding for a few hours at a time, you're like, I'm kind of over this. So they all kind of balance within each other, and you know, there's ups and downs to all of it too. You know, like it's all fun for a little bit, and it's all kind of like it's, you know, monotonous and tedious at the same time as well.
You're enjoying steering your own ship, aren't you?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, what I wanted to mention earlier that I think I forgot to touch on was I'm just very thankful that I know what I want to do, and I have it figured out, and I'm extremely passionate about it. Whereas I have some friends that have no idea what they want to do in life, and they don't have that drive, and it's like, oh, it's just such a bummer. You don't even know like at all what you want to do, and I just feel
not
for
an
them.
inkling.
Yeah, not an inkling. Like and I won't lie. Like obviously the entrepreneurial pursuit it's filled with so many challenges. You're constantly problem solving. There's no connect the dots to just figure this out. You have to figure it out on your own.
I like to say there's no elevator.
You know, and I'm sure you can relate yourself. You know what I mean? Like no one's holding your hand to tell you every little thing you got to do.
It's all trial and error.
Yeah, and you're going to fail a lot.
Yeah.
You're going to fail a lot, but I can't think of anything else I'd rather do. You know what I mean?
One of the questions I usually ask people, but I don't know that it would apply to you because I believe I'm looking at it. I normally ask if you could set your occupation, if you could create your own job and you could set your own money that you'd be paid for it. Mm-hmm. You know, within reason. Swimming in the beach all day is not a job, but if you could create something that was your job and you could create it for yourself, what would it be?
It'd be what I'm doing, yeah. It'd be what I'm doing, and I'm really glad I found out that you can do that. It's funny too because there's so many people out there that are creative, and there's a lot of artists out there, and there is no roadmap. But this, I can tell you right now, is probably the most important roadmap that you can kind of take in pursuit to trying to make a career out of art. There's the gallery model. That's just unrealistic, and oftentimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You know, you gotta get a bunch of art to them. You gotta deliver it to them. Then they're taking half the commission off the price, and then they want more art, and you just don't have the time to get it to them because really your priority is going to be your shows. You know, your shows is where you're making 100% of the money.
Because a gallery is consignment, right?
Yeah, oftentimes. Yeah. So you sell a painting for $1,000, and they're getting 500 of it. You know what I mean?
That's not the move.
And then, yeah, you know, and it is for like the slow months, you know, January, February, and stuff like that, where there aren't really a lot of shows to go to.
And if you've got extra pieces, sure.
Yeah, and you got extra pieces you've been holding on to for a while. It's always nice to have those revenue streams.
But if it's up to the rent or these few prints to put over there with Jim and those guys,
yeah,
you got to pay the rent.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Exactly. So yeah, it's the art show world is really kind of the way to go. At least starting out as an artist. I know other artists that are like so well established that like they don't really even need to do it anymore because they got like collectors that are now. Once you get into that, I mean, the art world is so ridiculous and filled with so many gatekeepers and like inflated prestige and just a bunch of BS. And so, but I don't know, once you get on that level and you get in the right hands and the right galleries in like Chicago and New York and stuff like that, it's going to be a different story. And then once art collectors come knocking, then you know they're just coming straight to you for commissions.
I think you're definitely headed there, my friend.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, year over year, it's getting better and better. You know, so it's definitely not going downhill. That's for sure.
So what have you learned in this very long, interesting endeavor, of a pursuit, what have you learned that necessarily wasn't being taught to you? Something that you learned that you went, you know what, man, that I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to teach that someday.
Oh man, I mean, all of it from beginning to end. I mean, I remember being a kid and people tell you, oh, you're never going to be, you can't make a living off of art. You're going to be a starving artist. And so many people think, I think on the outside perspective looking in, I think oftentimes people they're not really aware of the living that you can make off of doing art shows. I think a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, cute, he's selling his art at like a street fair and probably making a couple $100. And it's like, I thought that same thing, 10 years ago. If I'd be walking through a street festival or something like that, I'd be like, oh, cool, they're selling their art. But I had no idea the kind of money that you could be making doing this. So,
or the grind that goes into that tent even being there.
Oh, yeah. And it is a grind. It is a grind. There's some shows that are like 12 hours. You got to stay open for 12, 13 hours. In fact, Electric Forest was longer than that. It was like you had to be open at 11 a.m. all the way till 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. So luckily I had a little bit of help with friends and stuff like that. But when you have to stay open for that many hours, 4 days straight, like you're pretty tired by day 4, and you're sitting in the elements. It's hot and humid, and so unless you got like a fan, sometimes it can get kind of brutal, especially down in Texas and stuff.
So it's safe to consider you successful. Let's say there's a kid. He's into art. He's been painting. He's good at it. He lives in the middle of Nebraska.
Yeah.
He doesn't know much about outside of his area, but he got a big mind and he's curious. What would you say to him?
I would honestly say your first step is to looking into shows, and small ones, big ones, anything within your region and like certainly your state, especially if you're getting started. Look within your city, and then your state, and then eventually your region. But I'd definitely recommend that's the way to get started. Try to immerse yourself in the community. That's something that I still need to do more of. Going to like First Fridays at art shows and First Fridays in galleries and stuff like that. Colorado, Denver, even here in the Springs has a lot of that, where every First Friday of the month there's like a kind of little meet and greet and stuff like that at galleries and stuff. And so just getting more immersed in the community is helpful because you make more contacts and you get to meet people that can give you a little insight on this or shows that you would never even heard about or never even thought about and never could have even found on Google, So it's helpful to find any small little thing that you can do.
Networking.
Mm-hmm. Networking is certainly important, but more important than that is going to be just really getting into the shows, looking for the shows and getting into them and just doing them.
You have any coming up you want to let them know about?
Yeah. I will be doing, Denver Booze and Pancakes this Saturday. So this Saturday at the old Sports Castle off of like Broadway in Denver from, I believe, 6 to midnight. We'll be doing that show, and that's just a cool... I've actually never done it before, but I've heard a lot of good things, and they do it all around the country and in Europe as well. But they just do like a small little art show, and they got pancakes and booze, I guess, from what I hear. So DJs and stuff like that. So I'm super excited about that. And then the following weekend, I'll be down here at the Broadmoor doing the Broadmoor Art Show. That'll be the first time I'm doing that show. And then Evergreen at the end of the month. And then I'll be doing Breckenridge the first week in August. Second week, I'll be up in Cripple Creek for Donkey Days. So I'm trying to do everything and anything that I can. Anything that really has, and that's the other thing too, it doesn't have to be an art show. If it has people, that's what you want. You want numbers and people in front of your booth. And if they're drinking, even better. That's what you really want. Like when some of those like shows that have live music and drinking, that's definitely my crowd.
So if somebody's not familiar with your work, where could they see it?
Instagram and my website, just both Odd Dream Design. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook even too, but Facebook's not really that important, but website. And then I'm in Art 111 Gallery down here in Colorado Springs, Sanctuary Studios over in Old Colorado City. And as of right now, that's about it as far as like physical locations, just because that's like a hustle in itself, and sometimes just takes too much time. And again, the juice not really even being worth the squeeze, getting into a bunch of stores and sometimes it just takes up too much of your time when shows are really the priority.
And they could buy prints directly from you off your Instagram and your Odd Dream Design website, correct?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. Well,
Yes,
all
sir.
of that information will be linked in the description of this podcast. Tim, it's been an honor and a pleasure. It's been great to sit here with you, man. I welcome you back anytime. It's truly been nice to sit here with you. You were my first guest. It's because you're probably the first person I met in Colorado.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you so much, man. It's been an honor. Seriously, thank you.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.